Welcome back to The Explainer, brought to you by Forge College. Today, we're diving into designing module integration and interfaces. We're picking up right where we left off in our last lesson on the systematic identification of vulnerabilities. Because let's be real, knowing exactly how a contract gets hacked is incredibly important, but it's really only half the battle, right? The other half is actually drawing up the technical schematics for a smart contract system that doesn't just leave the front door wide open. We're currently in the capstone module on developing a modular smart contract system, which is part of the Intermediate Solidity Project's track. And this right here, this is the exact moment where all those abstract, high-level concepts become very, very real. We're talking concrete blueprints today. Let's get into it.
Here's our blueprint for today. We're hitting 6 key areas. 1. Blueprints before building. 2. Boundaries and state ownership. 3. Defining interface semantics. 4. Integration and execution patterns. 5. The drafting workflow. And finally, 6. Checkpoints for success.
Starting with Section 1. Blueprints before building.
Okay, so we've all been there, right? You get an idea, you open up your editor, and you just start furiously typing out Solidity code. But here's the thing. When you're dealing with multiple modules that absolutely have to interlock perfectly, winging it is pretty much a guaranteed recipe for disaster. Before a single line of code is written, we have to draw clear module boundaries. Essentially, these are the formal rules dictating state ownership, mutation rights, and input validation. Think of it like drawing precise, painted lanes on a factory floor. Without those lanes, your automated robots aren't just going to politely bump into each other. No, they're going to clumsily crash, probably burst into flames, and drop your users valuable tokens everywhere. If two different modules both think they control the exact same user balances, well, that ambiguity leads straight to duplicated state, nasty race conditions, and eventually a fully compromised system. You've got to explicitly map out who owns what.
Moving on to Section 2. Boundaries and state ownership.
In Web3, clear authority and perfect timing aren't just nice-to-haves, they are literally everything. To really picture this, imagine a high-security bank. Your registry module, that's the burly bouncer at the door. The policy module is the strict teller, and the vault is, well, the vault holding the actual funds. These components need a millisecond perfect sequence to function safely. Look at the flow. At 1 millisecond, the registry verifies the caller's role, basically checking, are they allowed in or are they walking in wearing a ski mask? At 2 milliseconds, the policy enforces the business rules, like, are they trying to withdraw $1 million on a random Tuesday afternoon? Then, at 3 milliseconds, the vault does the accounting and actually moves the tokens. If you mess the sequence up, you might end up with the vault tossing money out the window before the bouncer even checks an ID. You absolutely have to enforce this strict sequence on paper first, or trust me, a bug will find its way into your timing.
Let's look at Section 3. Defining interface semantics.
Now we need to figure out the exact behavioral language these modules are going to use to talk to each other. And no, this isn't just about picking clever names for your functions. We have to outline the complete behavioral contract. You need solid preconditions, meaning what absolutely must be true before this function even runs. Then postconditions, what guaranteed state changes are we promising after it finishes? You also need to map out the expected state transition events that get broadcasted on-chain for the world to see. And crucially, this is a big one, strict failure modes, because things will inevitably go wrong. You have to decide right now, does your module fail gracefully with a polite error, or does it completely panic and lock down the entire system to stop a catastrophic drain? Documenting these semantics explicitly is what saves you from wildly mismatched assumptions between your modules.
A huge part of defining these semantics is laying down an upgradability blueprint. You need to categorize your functions so you know exactly which gears in your machine can be swapped out later without breaking the whole thing. For instance, a basic hasRoll function in your registry, that's foundational. It's just a simple read-only check, so we mark it as stable. It shouldn't change. On the flip side, an execute withdrawal function in your policy module probably needs to be migratable. Business rules change all the time. Maybe you need to adjust daily withdrawal limits based on crazy market volatility. By classifying this stability right up front, you dodge a massive integration headache down the road when your business logic naturally needs to evolve.
All right, Section 4. Integration and execution patterns.
So, when you actually set these gears into motion in the real world, occasionally they're going to jam. How you handle that failure completely defines your contract's resilience. You basically have to choose your execution model. First up, atomic transactions. These are fantastic. They are all-or-nothing operations. If step 3 fails, steps 1 and 2 automatically revert. Like the whole thing was just a bad dream. For standard Solidity flows, this is exactly what you want. But as you start building much more complex systems, say dealing with cross-chain messages or off-chain data, you can't always rely on that. Sometimes you have to accept partial progress. And that's where compensating actions come in. Think of this as filing really tedious undo paperwork when a process fails. You actually have to explicitly design the complex logic to go back and clean up the mess left behind by a half-finished operation.
Section 5. The drafting workflow.
To take all these abstract ideas and turn them into actionable, concrete specs, we use a very methodical, step-by-step workflow. It's an engineering mindset we really emphasize here in Forge College's programs because it brings order to the chaos. Step 1. Enumerate your cross-module flows. Think user deposits or complex withdrawals. Got those mapped? Great. Step 2. Define who calls whom and who owns what state. Step 3. Lock in those precise function signatures, zero ambiguity allowed. Step 4. Declare your invariants and semantics, what must always remain true. And lastly, Step 5. Draft testable checkpoints. If you diligently follow this sequence, actually sitting down to write the code just becomes a matter of executing a brilliantly laid out plan instead of just guessing as you type.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, Checkpoints for Success.
Let's do one last inspection before we hand these schematics over to the builders. A successful, well-defined checkpoint looks exactly like what we have here. After policy.executeWithdrawal runs, vault balances must decrease, a withdrawal executed event is emitted, and registry.hasRoll must have been called first. Notice how incredibly specific that is? By drafting precise, highly readable checkpoints just like this, your next phase of development becomes completely predictable. When you hand this off to a developer or a security tester, there is absolutely no guesswork about what success looks like. Plus, it translates perfectly into automated test suites.
If you take away just one golden rule of smart contract integration today, it's this. Convert responsibility assignments into explicit ownership and access rules so modules never ambiguously claim the same state. Really let that sink in for a second. Keep this firmly in mind as you prep to apply these blueprints in our next lesson, which covers advanced testing strategies. Seriously, adhering to this principle is the only thing standing between you and deploying chaotic, highly vulnerable code.
So before you open up your code editor and start typing away, I want you to ask yourself honestly, are your smart contract modules communicating seamlessly, or are your robots about to violently crash into each other in the dark? Proper integration design isn't just some boring administrative paperwork, it is the absolute foundation of secure Web3 infrastructure. To master these patterns and check out our other guided projects, make sure to visit forge.college. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer by Forge College. Built smart, keep those boundaries clear, and I'll see you in the next one.